I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, December 21st, the first day of winter. We have a lot to talk about this morning. A couple of storm systems will impact the U.S., one out in the west and one across the southeastern part of the nation in the near term. California gets pounded again by a major storm system. Looks like heavy rain for that state along coastal sections, the lower elevation locations, but then you go inland to the higher elevation locations, for example, the Sierra Nevada mountain range in eastern California, and they will get substantial snowfall on the order of several feet over the next several days. And much of the interior western U.S., all the way up to the Pacific Northwest, those higher elevation locations, will get significant snowfall over the next few days. This is definitely another drought-busting type of storm system for the western U.S. Meanwhile, in the southeastern part of the nation, a storm will move today from Florida, a strong storm all the way from Florida to the Carolina coastline. Its impact overnight tonight will largely be limited to coastal sections in the Mid-Atlantic region, and then it shifts off the eastern seaboard during the day on Wednesday, and the winds will really intensify along the I-95 corridor region tomorrow afternoon. Out of the northwest as another chilly air mass moves in from the Great Lakes into the Mid-Atlantic and northeastern part of the nation. Before we get to talk about those particular storm systems for the near term, let's take a look at the MJO. We've been kind of focused on this Tropical Teleconnection Index. This is a forecast map from the ensemble run of the GFS. What you see in green here, we've talked about the different phases of the MJO, the Madden-Julian oscillation. This is phase 6, phase 7, and phase 8. Typically phase 7 and 8 are pretty cold phases for this time of the year across much of the nation. And the green represents the forecast from last night's run of the ensemble version of the GFS, and it stays largely, really entirely, in phase 7 over the next couple of weeks. This forecast goes all the way out to January 3rd. Notice here, it starts right here, then it moves into phase 7, and it kind of takes a loop back around and ultimately ends up farther out in phase 7 by the time we get to January 3rd. This particular point right here is the forecast for January 3rd. Now, the way to interpret this particular type of plot, first of all, the MJO will move counterclockwise in this kind of a plot, so very well could end up being in phase 8 by the time we get into the early part of January. And the farther away the signal is from this circle, the stronger it is. So when it loops back around closer to the circle area, it's kind of a weaker signal, a weaker tropical disturbance. When it moves out away from that circle, it's a more intense tropical wave. And so by the time we get to January 3rd on this particular forecast, it's a stronger signal in phase 7, and again, that is typically a cold phase for much of the U.S. Well, what could phase 7 or even phase 8 mean in terms of temperature anomalies across the nation in the month of January? This is a forecast, a long-range forecast from the ensemble run of the European model for the 2-week period from January 4th to January 18th, basically early January through mid-January. And what we're looking at are 2-meter temperature anomalies, basically surface level temperature anomalies averaged out for that 2-week period. And as you can see, much of the nation north of this line is colder than normal, and this is again typical of a phase 7 or a phase 8 of that Madden-Julian oscillation. The real core of the colder than normal air will be across western Canada, but it will certainly looks like it'll be colder than normal across 2/3 of the nation north of the southern states here for that 2-week period. Again, early January all the way through the middle part of the month of January. This particular forecast map, by the way, has trended colder and colder with recent runs. If that trend continues, it'll actually turn out to be even colder than what is suggested by this particular forecast. But again, phase 7, phase 8 are coming, maybe slightly delayed compared to what we expected over the last week or two, but colder weather pattern across much of the nation by the time we get to the end of December and into the early and middle parts of January. Well, let's take a look at the total precipitation forecast map produced by NOAA last night for the next 5 days, and really want to focus in on this storm across the western states, and also the second storm we were talking about up front in the southeastern part of the nation. Look at this rainfall over the next 5 days, just tremendous around. When I say rainfall, I meant precipitation amounts here over the next 5 days, just some tremendous precipitation. This is mostly in the form of snow, absolutely getting pounded again by snowfall over the next several days in the Sierra Nevada. This is where the eastern California Sierra Nevada mountain range is located. Much of, not all of this, will be in the form of snow in those higher elevation locations. Again, we're talking on the order of several feet. All that is good news, by the way, for California, because the snowpack that builds up during the winter season in the Sierra Nevada is crucial to California's water supply in the summer, as it actually supplies a lot of water through snowmelt during the summer months. And all of this, or much of this, will also be in the form of snow in those higher elevation locations of the Pacific Northwest. Definitely unusual snowfall amounts coming over the next several days in the higher elevations of Washington and Oregon. Along coastal sections, significant rainfall over the next several days. Again, a drought-busting kind of a storm here. In general, it's good news, but a lot of serious problems coming in those higher elevations with some snowfall in terms of travel, etc., over the next several days. Meanwhile, low pressure today will move from Florida, strong low pressure system, to the Carolina coastline and only skirt the Mid-Atlantic region, especially limited to the coastal sections of the Mid-Atlantic region, Delmarva Peninsula in the overnight hours, coastal New Jersey. Cannot rule out a shower of rain, sleet, or snow all the way back into the I-95 corridor region late tonight, early tomorrow, but for the most part, this storm system will impact the southeastern coastal sections and only skirt the Mid-Atlantic region. But again, two storm systems to talk about for the next few days. The western U.S. and in the next 24 hours or so, the southeastern part of the nation. Well, that prior map was the total precipitation amount forecasted by NOAA's Weather Prediction Center for the next 5 days. This is the forecast map of total snowfall. All of this is snowfall from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS, the operational run of the GFS. And just look at some of these totals out here. This, I have to look closely here, 53 inches of snow depicted here by the GFS model in a higher elevation location in western Oregon over the next several days. Just some tremendous snowfall amounts from the Sierra Nevada all the way up to those higher elevation locations to British Columbia, interior, Washington, Oregon. This is just unbelievable amounts of snow on the order of several feet in many locations. And a lot of significant snow will extend all the way into the interior western U.S. Montana gets hit hard. The Colorado Rockies and the Rockies in general get hit hard by this storm system over the next several days. There are several waves of low pressure moving into the northeastern part of the nation. We'll take a look at that in a moment here. It could throw some snow, some accumulating snow down, especially those areas north of the Mason-Dixon line over the next several days. Well, let's in fact take a look at those waves of low pressure that may impact the northeastern part of the nation, the Mid-Atlantic region, over the next several days. Not any real big storm coming over the next several days, but several minor to moderate type storm systems will impact the Mid-Atlantic region over the next several days. We'll kind of talk about that here over the next couple of minutes. This is from the zero-Z run of the operational version of the GFS. First of all, here is the storm system right now in the eastern Gulf of Mexico that again will push up towards the Carolina coastline. The storm has not yet arrived in California over the next several days. A relatively dry, cloudy type of day and chilly type of day in the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's now move forward here. Again, by the time we get to tomorrow morning, well, let's back up a little, but by the time we get to this evening, storm system will head out to the north and east from the eastern Gulf of Mexico, across Florida, and then up towards the Carolina coastline. By early tonight. Rains start to push into the coastal sections of Northern California with snow in the interior. Then we move out to tomorrow morning. This storm system, again, will only skirt the Mid-Atlantic region with some rainfall in the overnight hours, places like coastal New Jersey, maybe the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. Cannot rule out a late night rain, sleet, or snow shower in the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City, especially in those areas just to the south and east of those big cities. Snow starts to move into the Sierra Nevada range on Wednesday morning. Then by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, look at this isobar pattern here. What we have developing for tomorrow afternoon is high pressure right in this region right here and low pressure off the coast. And in between, right in this region right here, the pressure gradient will tighten, intensify, and winds will start to pick up in intensity in the Mid-Atlantic region out of the north to northwest. Winds flow counterclockwise around lows and clockwise around highs, and that combination again will produce 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow afternoon and evening. DC, Philadelphia, New York City on the backside of that departing low pressure area. Let's keep moving forward now, and here we go into Thursday morning. Here we go with the heavy snowfall in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, the higher elevations of western Oregon, western Washington State, all the way up to British Columbia. By the way, this whole area is in for a very cold stretch of weather and a lot of snowfall with this particular storm system. Thursday morning, dry, chilly in the Mid-Atlantic region. Then we get to Thursday night time frame, late Thursday night. And here's one wave that could cause some snow showers, let's say from the Pennsylvania-Maryland border up north of there, Thursday night into early Friday, still getting pounded out across the western U.S. Then we have another weak to moderate type of storm system moving in late Friday night. So one late Thursday night for the Mid-Atlantic Northeast, one late Friday night with some rain and snow showers for the Mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S. Then we get into Christmas night here and going into Saturday night, Sunday morning, another wave headed for the Mid-Atlantic region with some rain shower activity, maybe snow showers north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Meanwhile, still snowing on late Saturday night going into Sunday morning across those higher elevation locations, Sierra Nevada, western Oregon, western Washington. Then we go into Sunday morning, and again, another wave affecting the Mid-Atlantic region by Sunday morning, and a colder push of air pushing in at this particular time on the backside of that intensifying low pressure area. Again, we have a northerly flow of air pushing colder air in on Sunday with some strong winds as that low pressure area pushes off the eastern seaboard. And look at this, still big storm system hanging around, impacting the western U.S., not only from the middle of this week, but all the way through the upcoming weekend. Again, a drought-busting kind of a storm system for much of the western U.S., and some unusual snowfall amounts coming to parts of the interior higher elevation locations over the next several days. So a lot going on, not only over the next week or so across the CONUS, the continental U.S., but we took a quick look ahead to the possibilities of a pretty cold weather pattern for the month of January across much of the nation. That's it for now. For Arcfield Weather, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.